Today, we are tearing back the curtain on what can only be described as a gut-wrenching betrayal from the very top. The Supreme Court, the supposed bastion of justice, has once again proven itself to be nothing more than a political instrument, playing games with our fundamental God-given rights. We're talking about the Second Amendment, folks, and if you think they are just delaying decisions, you haven't seen the whole picture. This isn't just bureaucratic inefficiency. This is a calculated chess match where your freedoms are the pawns. We have breaking news on critical gun rights cases, and what they did, or, more accurately, didn't do, speaks volumes about the corrupt system we're fighting against. I am going to lay out the facts, then we're going to dive deep into why this is happening. And finally, I am going to warn you about the insidious future they are preparing for every single one of us. Stay tuned, because the truth they don't want you to hear is coming right up. All right, let's cut straight to the chase and talk about the latest slap in the face from the Supreme Court. Last Friday was a conference day, a day when we were all holding our breath, hoping for some movement, some courage, from the highest court in the land on crucial Second Amendment cases. We had massive cases on the docket, challenges to rifle bans, to magazine bans, to regulations on short-barreled rifles, and even suppressors. The stakes couldn't have been higher for law-abiding citizens across this country. And what did we get? Well, folks, we got a mixed bag, and by mixed bag I mean mostly bad news, with a tiny sliver of temporary relief that still leaves us hanging by a thread. The most immediate, concrete, and frankly infuriating news is that the Supreme Court denied to hear the case of Rush versus United States. Now, for those of you who might not know, Rush versus United States is a critical case dealing with short-barreled rifles. The question presented to the Supreme Court was whether the Second Amendment secures the right to possess unregistered short-barreled rifles that are in common use for lawful purposes. This wasn't some fringe argument. This was a direct challenge, post-Bruin, to a criminal statute that infringes on constitutional rights. The Seventh Circuit, a lower federal court, basically said, nope, not under existing precedent. And now, the Supreme Court has rubber-stamped that denial. That means the Seventh Circuit's decision stands. It means that an American citizen is left without the protection of the Supreme Court, whose very job it is to safeguard our constitutional liberties. This isn't just about a specific type of firearm. It's about whether our rights are subject to the whims of unelected judges in lower courts, with the Supreme Court refusing to step in and ensure uniformity across the nation. It's a shocking abdication of duty, plain and simple. But wait, there's more, or rather there's less, which is arguably just as bad. What about the other major cases we've been following? Cases like Duncan versus Bonta, an absolutely critical magazine ban case out of California that could affect millions of gun owners. Or Gators, another significant magazine ban case, this one coming to us from the Washington State Supreme Court. And let's not forget Vera, a rifle ban case out of Illinois that is directly impacting citizens trying to exercise their rights in that state. What happened to these? Were they granted? Were they denied? Neither, folks. Neither. These cases, along with others, were punted. They were not denied, which is the only bright spot in this whole mess. But they were also not granted. Instead, they've been rescheduled for another conference day, now pushed all the way out to January 9th of the new year. That's nearly an entire month away. The Supreme Court, it seems, has decided to pack up its bags and go on vacation, while our fundamental rights hang in the balance. We've seen this tactic before. It's a delay, a stall, a slow walking of justice that leaves good, law-abiding Americans in limbo. The speaker in the original clip put it perfectly, saying, "The Supreme Court sucks at taking Second Amendment cases." And he's right. When you look at the numbers, something like 20 times as many First Amendment cases taken compared to Second Amendment cases, it screams of a blatant bias. Justice Thomas himself has said the Second Amendment isn't a second-class right, but by their actions, or rather, their inaction, the Supreme Court treats it exactly that way. They are sending a clear message. Your right to keep and bear arms is not as important as other rights, and they will drag their feet for as long as humanly possible before addressing it. That is the breaking news, and it is a bitter pill to swallow for anyone who believes in the Constitution. Now, let's peel back the layers here, because this isn't just about docket management or a busy court calendar. This is about something far more insidious, a deeper corruption within our system. When the Supreme Court consistently, relentlessly, avoids crucial Second Amendment cases, it begs the question, why? Why this obvious, undeniable bias? The speaker in the clip hits on it, saying, The Supreme Court treats the Second Amendment as a second-class right. And here is the ugly truth they won't tell you. By refusing to hear these cases, by continually kicking the can down the road, the Supreme Court is effectively allowing unconstitutional infringements on our rights to fester in lower courts. It creates a patchwork of legal chaos across the nation, where a right you have in one state is suddenly criminalized in another. Think about that for a second. Your constitutional rights should not depend on your zip code. But when the Supreme Court refuses to provide clear national guidance, that's exactly what happens. It's judicial cowardice masquerading as prudence, and it serves the agenda of those who want to erode our freedoms piece by piece. Who benefits from this perpetual state of legal uncertainty? Well, for starters, the anti-Second Amendment lobby absolutely loves it. They thrive in chaos. They use these conflicting lower court rulings to push their narrative, to demand more restrictions, to chip away at our liberties. Every time the Supreme Court punts on a case like Duncan or Vera, it emboldens the politicians in places like California and Illinois to double down on their unconstitutional gun bans. They see the Supreme Court's inaction as a green light, a tacit approval of their overreach. And let's be honest, those politicians are not acting alone. They are often backed by powerful, well-funded organizations with deep pockets and a clear anti-gun agenda. It's always about following the money, folks. Who funds these campaigns? Who lobbies for these laws? Who benefits politically from demonizing law-abiding gun owners? Furthermore, the Supreme Court's strategy of delay also puts immense pressure on gun owners. Think about the individuals and organizations bringing these cases. They are spending millions of dollars, years of their lives, fighting for your rights and mine. Every delay, every punt, means more legal fees, more uncertainty, more emotional toll. It's a war of attrition, designed to wear down the opposition until they can no longer afford to fight. It's a tactic often employed by those in power to crush dissent and discourage future challenges. We have no idea why the Supreme Court is moving these down the road, the clip says, but we can make educated guesses. Is it because they know these cases are complex and politically charged? Is it because they are waiting for a better vehicle? Or is it because they simply lack the courage to uphold a right that has become deeply polarizing in modern America? We heard the Speaker mention Justice Kavanaugh's previous statement about the Supreme Court taking a Second Amendment case in the next term. But what good is a promise if they are going to delay it until June, only to then deny it, as they've done with cases like Snope and Ocean State? That's not justice. That's torture. It's a game of chicken where our constitutional rights are the prize. This isn't just judicial discretion. It's a pattern of strategic avoidance that undermines the very foundation of our republic. The Supreme Court's role is to interpret the Constitution, not to dodge its responsibilities because the issues are politically inconvenient. This inaction is an action in itself, an action that signals a deeply troubled and potentially corrupt system, prioritizing political optics over fundamental rights. So, what does this mean for us, the everyday American citizens, the ones who just want to exercise our constitutional rights without fear of becoming criminals overnight? This isn't just some abstract legal discussion, folks. This has real, tangible, and terrifying consequences for your life, your property, and your freedom. The most immediate danger lies in the cases that are currently being delayed, especially Duncan versus Bonta. As the speaker in the clip highlighted, if Duncan is ultimately denied, a huge portion of good, Constitution-loving, law-abiding citizens in the state of California would become criminals virtually overnight. Think about that. Millions of people, simply for owning a standard capacity magazine, would suddenly be in violation of the law. This isn't about committing a violent crime. This is about being criminalized for possessing a piece of plastic and metal that is perfectly legal in most of the country and protected by the Second Amendment. This is the government turning ordinary citizens into felons through judicial inaction. And if they can do it in California, they can do it anywhere. While the injunction in Duncan currently remains in effect, meaning people can still possess their magazines for now, that is a temporary reprieve, a fragile peace that can be shattered at any moment by a single, cowardly ruling from the Supreme Court. The longer they delay, the more power they grant to the states to impose these draconian laws, knowing the Supreme Court might just let it slide. This creates a terrifying precedent where your rights are held hostage by the political leanings of lower court judges and the calculated inaction of the highest court. It's a systemic failure that chips away at the very fabric of our liberties. And let's not forget the financial and emotional toll this takes. Imagine living under the constant threat of your legally owned property becoming illegal. the stress, the uncertainty, the need to constantly monitor legal developments. It's designed to exhaust and demoralize. This isn't just about guns. It's about control. It's about a government and a judiciary that is willing to sacrifice individual liberty for political expediency, or perhaps for a more sinister agenda of disarming the populace. This pattern of the Supreme Court consistently avoiding Second Amendment cases is not just an issue for gun owners. It's a warning signal for every single American, regardless of your stance on firearms. If the Supreme Court can treat one of our fundamental constitutional rights as a second-class right, then what's to stop them from doing the same to others? Your First Amendment rights, your Fourth Amendment protections, your due process. If the highest court won't step up to defend the plain language of the Constitution for one right, what makes you think they'll be there for another? This is about the integrity of our entire legal system, and whether our Constitution is truly the supreme law of the land, or just a suggestion to be conveniently ignored when political winds shift. The future warning is stark. If we don't demand better, if we don't hold our institutions accountable, we risk a future where our rights are not inherent, but are instead privileges granted and revoked by an increasingly detached and politically motivated judiciary. The system is rigged, folks. They are pushing these decisions off, hoping you will forget, hoping you will get tired, hoping you will give up. But we cannot. We must remain vigilant, demand justice, and never, ever allow them to turn our constitutional rights into mere suggestions. This is a fight for the very soul of our republic, and the Supreme Court's latest actions are a stark reminder of the battles yet to come. The system is rigged against you, but we are here to expose every crack, every manipulation, and every betrayal. Today's news from the Supreme Court is a prime example of how they play games with our freedom, pushing crucial Second Amendment cases into oblivion or indefinite limbo. They deny some, delay others, all while good, law-abiding citizens face the threat of criminalization. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the Supreme Court is intentionally avoiding these Second Amendment cases, or is there a legitimate reason for their consistent delays and denials? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and never give up on your rights.